That's what this house is called now.
Yeah.
Sweet. Live in a glory hole.
Yeah. Yeah, the Glory Hole is where the Glory Friends podcast is recorded, which, welcome to episode 2 of the Glory Friends podcast, being recorded here in the glorious Glory Hole.
Come gather around the glory hole and have a listen.
And for those of you who are tuning in for the religious aspects of this podcast, praise be with you and hold on to your horses because you're going to be in for a wild ride.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh my God, there's a cock coming through the hole.
That's how this works.
Means Alex is here.
Yeah.
That's our friend Matt Richards.
Hi.
He is guesting on our podcast for this episode, and we are happy to have him. Hello, Matt.
Welcome, Matt.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
We're
I live
happy-
at the glory hole.
Matt lives at the glory hole with me. We live in a glory hole.
A glorious hole of a home that you've built together.
Do you want me to turn the TV off, Alex? You seem distracted.
I am a little distracted because this game is really pissing me off right now.
That's what I would say, too, if I was like, I can't stop looking at their butts.
Well, that's not the part that's pissing me off. The part that's pissing me off is that there's not enough close-ups of Bruce Arians on the Cardinal sideline.
There's not enough fat old men in the NFL.
That is a problem a lot of people point out about the NFL. It's the lack of fat old men. Where are people that look like me? How come I'm not represented?
I'm not represented in this league.
Now
Neither
that
am I.
Colin Kaepernick is gone.
Turn the TV off.
I don't think, this is fucking awful. I don't know why this is on.
Alex is just staring at
Well,
me.
and it started as a joke, and then it became the only thing we did.
You're like my daughter, I gotta get ready. I'm gonna turn the TV off, so you put your fucking shoes on.
My mom had to do that doing it to me growing up. Like, what was that? There was a cartoon that I used to love. I think it was called like Mad Max or something, or it was Max something. I can't
Max
remember.
Headroom?
No, it was like this kid. He was blonde and he wore this white T-shirt with a big M on it and like a red hat with an M on it. And he would like travel through like dimensions and shit.
What?
Yeah.
Max.
Like a kid, Rick and Morty?
Kind of, but not like adult. It was like for kids.
Yeah, a kid. Yeah.
If you can confirm that this is a real show that Alex is not making up, please leave proof in the comments if you're looking at this on some
Call
social
in.
media platform.
If our engineer was here, he could have Googled it for me.
Call in.
All right,
I'm thinking like Jimmy. I just think Jimmy Neutron when you say kid with blonde hair and.
Or any old, that's so a character with a letter and a blank shirt, a red shirt.
I'm thinking of Max Headroom, and that's
no,
totally
it was a
not
white
right.
T-shirt with a red M.
I don't know.
It does sound vaguely familiar, but
I watched rated R movies when I was a kid. I didn't watch a lot of cartoons. I did watch cartoons.
Mighty Max. That's what it was.
That sounds dumb.
Yeah.
Mighty Max. Do you guys remember?
Yeah, of course it was dumb. It was on at 8 o'clock in the morning, like before I'd go to school.
Did you guys? There was like all these weird cartoons that were on after school when you got home. They were on Channel 20. There was one called Cops, like before Cops was a TV show, but they're like cops in the future.
It was a cartoon?
Yeah.
Huh.
Cartoon called Cops.
No.
I was just like, I really like. It was like sort of science fiction-y, but like, I don't know. It was weird. Do you remember the knockoff Ghostbusters?
no.
I have to find it.
Dude, I remember like Gargoyles. Like I watched that.
Oh yeah,
I watched
Gargoyles was the
Gargoyles.
shit.
That was the shit.
Yeah, I remember Gargoyles.
I wanted all those. Like, they came out with toys at like Burger King or something,
Yeah.
and I had to get all of them. And I don't think I did. It's like one of the disappointments of being a kid was like I never got all those.
Another before school cartoon that I watched was Transformers Beast Wars.
I don't remember, dude. I watched Price is Right from like kindergarten. Like from that point on, I was like, I want to watch Price is Right before I go to school, and that was my.
I don't remember Price is Right being on that early in the morning.
It was because I went to the late kindergarten.
I
the
see.
late,
Right.
yeah.
You
So
did
I
the
got
CM
to,
class.
but I missed the fucking Showcase Showdown every time, and I was
Oh, man.
pissed. And
Yeah.
I'd like sometimes we'd be late, and I'd be like sitting at the TV, like standing next to it, just like, come on, mom, slow down. I got to find out like who gets the jet ski.
The Ghostbusters cartoon was like this fucking like weird white dude, a gorilla,
Oh yeah, I do remember.
and they
this.
drove around in an old car with a ghost face on it.
Yeah,
Remember that?
yeah.
And then like they wanted to make a Ghostbusters cartoon based on the movie, so they had to call their cartoon the real Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like the Ghostbusters, it was like Egon and Ray and all of them, like they were in Slimer. That was the real Ghostbusters, because this one was already out, just called Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
So
I
they
do
did like
remember
what
that now.
shitty comedians do.
Yep.
The real Ghostbusters.
That just based on that picture, it looks like a mashup of Ghostbusters and Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
Sort of was. They just drove around that like old shitty car. They didn't have the technology of the real Ghostbusters. They didn't have ghost traps and the proton packs.
What did they use, like a box, like a ghost box and a stick, and
To
just
be
set
honest,
it
I
up?
don't really remember much
Yeah.
about it. I think I just watched it because it was called Ghostbusters, and I was like, this isn't fucking Ghostbusters.
There's pretty much nothing I wouldn't watch as a child other than MASH. That was like the only
Oh,
show.
yeah, I hated MASH.
When that theme song would start, it'd be like, oh, that boring show about war is on. I would
Yeah,
turn
I
it
hate
off.
it. My parents loved MASH.
Do you guys know the name of the theme song to that show?
Isn't it just MASH?
No, the theme song is called Suicide is Painless. That's the theme song to the show, which is so weird to me. I'm just like, that's a really strange.
I know people who
We're
are
gonna go with
really
that.
into MASH. Didn't it end weird? Like wasn't it like all just a dream or something? Or
No, that was the show about the hospital. It was,
oh yeah. It was like an autistic boy's fantasy or something.
yeah, like the whole thing took place in his brain. That was a show my mom used to watch.
Howie Mandel was on it, wasn't he?
I believe he was. Man,
Was it Hill Street Blues?
Nope, that was
another.
around the exact same time though.
Well, Hill Street Blues was like the cop show, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah,
I remember when my dad loved Hill Street Blues.
St. Elsewhere.
Yep, St. Elsewhere.
yeah,
That was the one where it was like, this was all a dream.
Yeah.
My dad used to love Hill Street Blues, and I remember my aunt once telling him, like, hey, did you know that the theme song to Hill Street Blues has words to it? And my dad was like super stoked and like, oh my gosh, really? What are they? And she's like, Hill Street Blues, Hill Street Blues, Hill Street. And I thought my dad was going to punch her. Like, he's like, oh, this is a joke. Fuck you. Like, I thought I was so excited for a second. My dad loved theme songs for some reason. I remember one of my most vivid memories with him was running around to different record stores during the height of Miami Vice's fame, trying to find the soundtrack to the TV show on vinyl. He wanted it so bad because he just loved the theme song. And like listening back to it, I'm like, what a weird thing to like so much. This is not that great of a song.
I became obsessed with the A-Team long after the A-Team had gone off the air.
Nice.
Actually, I did too, but only because the cars they used to make really high quality Hot Wheels for the A-Team.
Yeah.
They were like really well made and they had really good paint jobs. So I had a Mr. T car, and I was like, "Who is Mr. T? He's fucking awesome."
Did he have his car in the show? Didn't they just all ride in the van?
The van. Yeah.
No, it literally was just a car with his face on it. I was like, "This is sweet."
That's awesome.
Well, Face had his Corvette. So that was the only other car. I was obsessed with it because I really wanted to have sex with George Papard.
At that young of an age?
No, this was way after I got off the air. This was like
2 weeks ago.
This was like my junior year of college, I think.
And was that the guy with white hair that smoked a cigar?
Yeah.
I had a feeling.
Was he Hannibal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I never really watched the A-Team. I remember it as a child, but I never really watched it.
We used to play A-Team. Like my friends were like, let's play A-Team, and we would just say, I'm this person, and just go in the park and pretend we had guns.
And not shooting anyone.
Yeah. I think about like the shit I used to play when I was a kid, and like, so I was obsessed with army shit when I was a kid, and like my mom would buy me like, you know, toy Uzis and shit from Kmart, and we would, if you saw a bunch of kids running around the park with like black, like they weren't like orange like Nerf guns, like they were black fucking Uzis. Like if you saw a bunch of kids running through a park with guns, you'd be like, oh shit, like they're gonna kill everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, for real.
I remember my best friend in elementary school, his dad was a Vietnam vet, and we would watch like pretty gory war movies with him all the time. And we were like in fucking second and third grade. And every year for Halloween, we wanted to be army guys, and we just paint our face camouflage. And like he would take us to like the army surplus store to buy stuff for our costume. And I remember he bought us bullet belts and bought us real M60 shell casings to put in the belt. We fucking wore them to school for Halloween. Like, we painted our face. We had fucking M60 shell casings like strapped diagonally across our bodies. We had
That's like some Columbine shit.
yeah. And it was like, oh, Ray and his friend are army guys. Like, they didn't care we had real bullets. Like,
I had a friend like that, but that was like way past the even when I was growing up was still like, yeah, probably not the gun. Like, wear the stuff and the camouflage, but don't bring the gun or like the bullets or anything. So he just wear like satchels everywhere, so he just looked like an assistant on the battlefield.
we're hikers.
Yeah. And then like I remember before, like I got into military stuff with him. I thought that was like the
Outdoorsy for
shit.
Halloween.
But like when I first saw someone who had all that stuff, I wanted to hang out with this kid because he was older and he had a tower in his backyard, like a lookout sniper tower that his dad put up, and it was really high. And I was like, this is sweet. So I get up there and I'm like, man, this is really cool to look out of. And then he is in camouflage and starts pulling out fake guns and yelling about imaginary soldiers and shooting them, and I was like, this is fucking stupid. I was like 4 or 5 years old and he's like 9 or 10. I was like, I don't get what the appeal of this is. I just like being high off the ground.
Totally, absolutely.
Matt's like a cat. He just wants to be high up, looking down.
Just need the vantage point so I don't get cagey.
Are you a cat person, Matt?
I like cats, yeah. I like dogs too, though, so it's not.
I went out to breakfast this morning and there was a flyer in the lobby of the restaurant for a lost cat. And it said, his name is Stinky or George. And I was like, what the fuck? Just say he doesn't have a name.
If you see a cat that responds to anything, that's our cat.
But I don't like at the same time. Your dog Bane, I like say his name and he just looks at me. He's like, "Yeah, that's it," and then walks away.
Yeah, asshole. He's afraid you're gonna tell him to do something.
I actually did like. He was like being annoying, and I was like, "Stop being a dick." And then he behaved really nice and like was like, "Oh, okay," and walked away. And then Amy was here, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he just responds." But I was like, "Hey, asshole!" And he looked and walked over and came up, and I was like, "What? Like you just have to be mean to your dog?" And he's he's really nice after that.
Yep, that's how it works. That's what I do professionally. Is I go to people's houses and I tell them you're not being mean enough to your dog. You should call him asshole more often, and maybe he'd listen to you.
Yeah. Have you tried screaming obscenities at your animal?
Dogs respond extremely well to treats and obscenities. No, don't swear at your dog.
Degrade them.
I mean, I guess you can. You can
What if
swear at your
you-
dog if you really want to.
What if
but-
you like just
Be nice to them.
swear at them, but like in a cutesy voice, like "Oh, you little asshole"?
I
Like,
think that's great. In fact, I tell people to do that, like, because sometimes, like, for instance, when people's dogs like run off and then they recall their dogs to them, sometimes your instinct is to be like, "Bad dog, don't run away." But what you're doing is punishing your dog for doing a recall. So the next time they run away, they're going to be like, "You yelled at me last time I did this." So I tell people to be like, "You scared the shit out of me, you fucking asshole! You asshole! Stay over here." You know, so that you use your words, but don't let your dog know necessarily that you're that
Oh
freaked
my
out and
god,
upset.
you stupid fucking piece of shit!
You could have
just
gotten
gave
fucking
me a
killed in the
heart
street.
attack.
Yeah, that's
How
fine.
fucking dumb are you?
I think that's the best way to swear at your dog if you're going to do it.
Politely.
I mean, to be fair, I also will open the door and be like, "Get in the house, homos! Come on, you guys!" So I think that's fine.
I've heard you call Gomez an asshole. Like
Oh, for sure.
Like I remember when you lived here, you left the kitchen and he ate 2 whole pieces of pizza and breadsticks off your plate
Yes.
and one, and you're like, "You fucking asshole!"
But I also fully recognize that the real fault lies with me. I'm the one who fucking left my plate there. Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating, of
Yeah.
course. It's
Yeah,
getting frustrated
definitely.
with your dogs is But don't be punitive and scream in their faces. and stuff.
It was very frustrating. I had a bunch of coworkers over my house from a couple weeks ago, and one of them brought like a huge chocolate cake from Costco, which is my favorite chocolate cake. Like
From Costco?
Specifically from Costco.
Interesting. I've heard people say that before, like rave about their cakes.
Never
would have thought.
It's amazing. I couldn't
best bakery around.
Best bake. If you guys want, like,
Do you guys know any like really good little bakeries?
Costco.
These poor old Polish women who put their blood, sweat, and tears into their little tiny bakeries. They're like, Costco, you're putting me under.
But I couldn't like really enjoy it though because it was a huge chocolate cake, and I had to like make sure I never took my eyes off of it while it was out because of the dogs,
Right, yeah.
Because they get into everything.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm like eating this thing that I love, but I'm so stressed out because I'm like protecting it with my life because
Yep.
I can't
Like
let
a
them
dog.
get to it. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like, "Arr."
You're like, now I know how you feel.
Yeah.
I'm resource guarding. That's a dog training term.
It is,
that I
good
learned
one.
from Laura.
Yep. Ray's throwing around some technical terms, everybody. Trying to act fancy.
I know you laymen's might not get that, but
All you non-dog people.
Right.
a resource is a thing a dog has.
This
and guarding
podcast-
is guarding.
This this podcast is for hardcore Christians and dog people specifically.
Yep. And people who know what a glory hole is.
Yeah. Hardcore Christians.
Which there's a lot. I mean, if you do
All
like...
the same person.
Right. If you did like one of those charts where there's like a circle of each of them, the overlap is huge.
Hardcore-
The overlap is about the size
Hardcore
of a glory
Christians
hole.
think cats are satanic, so they're always dog people, and they all know what glory holes are.
Yeah. Yeah. Repression runs deep.
So I have me and Laura used to live here in this house, and now I have my new roommate, which is Matt. Is there any sort of like rivalry between you two?
Yeah, I'm furious.
I mean, look at her body language.
Yeah. I mean, quite honestly.
Arms folded.
Everything
I
is just
think it's
crossed.
because-
She's not
Take
open.
a hint, Matt.
I think she thinks that I went to Bane and was like, you fucking piece of shit. So now I'm in
When no-
timeout.
when
Kid's
no one-
not here. Now I can do whatever the fuck I want to.
When
It's all Clint Eastwood on him.
when no one's home, he just goes and starts rattling his cage with like a stick.
That's
That's why we never have a spatula on the show.
He sits outside of his crate just eating food.
Eating his
Watching-
food.
Fucking piece of
so good.
Matt's just eating Bane's dog food right outside the crate.
That's why Bane was so happy Laura was here. He's like, "Are you guys switching again?"
Oh, thank God. It's not the psychotic small man. It's this nice small girl.
Keeps taunting me by chewing socks in front of me. You know I want that.
I do like the fact that Matt put my drums together. That makes me happy. I haven't played them yet, but
You should play them.
I want to.
Have you tuned them yet, Matt?
Kind of. I did like a bullshit job one day. Just to
Isn't
get
drum tuning the worst?
It's just one of those things where it's like now I have to take everything off and then undo everything and then start from scratch. And instead of doing that, I just kind of like bullshitted it and like got it close enough so it's got. And plus, I'm playing by myself, so a little bit of ring in the background makes you feel like you're playing with people.
There, that's true.
Feel like you
I
have-
would find when I tried to tune drums that it would just set my OCD off completely because
Yeah.
there's no. I mean, for instance, if you're tuning like. I used to play the oboe. If you're playing an F on an oboe, that is a note that sounds a certain way always. But a lot of times to drums, you're kind of tuning to taste. You know, like, I like the way this sounds.
This is how I like.
Yeah, and so that ambiguity, I'd be like, I'm gonna be doing this all day. So I'd be like, dun 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 all day, and I'd be like, my neighbors just listen to me do this for 4 hours. They think this is how I play the drums.
They're like, I could do that.
Yeah, seriously, I have no doubt that people were like, what the fuck is wrong with that person?
This is how
Is this
girls
some
drum.
meditation shit? Yeah, I'm a fucking girl drummer. I would finally just be like, somebody rescue me from my own hell and tune my drums for me. I
And
can't.
then if you play with someone, this first person you play with, you're like, oh, this all sounds terrible together.
Yep.
I need to undo
Exactly.
everything I just did.
So 4 more hours of dun 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 dun. Damn it, not the same. Tighten, tighten,
You
tighten.
play open E.
Yeah, for real. Oh boy,
The Glory Music Podcast.
you used to be in a band, Ray, right?
Yeah.
Did you play instruments or just sing?
I just in the band I just sang. I tried to play bass. Basically I chose bass because like right out of high school, me and my friends wanted to start a punk band. And I was like, I'll choose bass because it only has 4 strings, so it's easier than guitar.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put all that much effort into this.
I love that. That's the greatest reason to choose bass.
I had to play bass because I was the worst guitar player. We had 3 guitar players, and they're like, well, whoever's worse is playing bass. And I was like, oh,
Take 2 strings away from that.
I got them back. I bought a 5-string. I was like, yeah, now what?
I got a 10-string bass, you fucking dorks.
Yeah, I was such a nerd.
But my first choice was drums because I wanted to sit behind the drums so no one could see me.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, man, I'm not. It's kind of hard to play punk music because you got to play fast.
Oh yeah, I think punk drumming is super hard.
Yeah,
super
and
hard.
I'm like, and we liked all that. We were like, it was like when the Fat Records heyday of the really like some of those punk bands almost had like fucking thrash metal drummers.
Totally.
I'm like, I will never be able to learn how to do this.
It makes me
I'll
feel
just
like
play
exhausted just thinking about playing like one punk song. Like that's so hard to do.
Yeah, everything's just on fire by the end.
And sitting behind the drums, people can't see you, but they can hear you. So that's kind of the thing I ran into because I was like, it's kind of cozy back here. And then I'd be like, oh, if I like fuck up and like hit something I'm not supposed to, it does not blend in. Whereas if you like hit the wrong string, like, no,
You're also the tempo for the whole. So if you're off, everybody's just like, what the fuck is Laura doing?
right.
Well, and every time they mic you at like a show, it doesn't matter what they do unless it's like a professional one. As soon as the kick drum is mic'd, it sounds like someone just took like a 2x4 and banged it on the walls all over. Like just dush, dush. So if you fuck that up, like the whole place is just like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's literally feeling it in their chest. Like they feel your mistakes in their body. That's how obvious they are. So
That's what my parents always said to me.
That's like how people play music for their kids in the womb. They're just like, I feel your mistakes.
I can feel your mistakes. They hurt my body.
Deep in my chest, that's where I feel your mistakes.
I can physically feel your failure.
Do they still call you and say that?
Yeah.
It's not going
No, my
away.
parents are my mom is very supportive of of all the horrible things I say on Facebook that I call jokes. Like she likes all of them.
Yes.
And she's like, sometimes she'll be like, she'll get scared and she'll be like, because she's friends with like a lot of her like cousins and stuff that I don't know. And she's like, if I like one of your jokes, will my cousins be able to see that I like? Because I don't want them to see. So she is still ashamed of me a little bit.
My mom like wants to be on board with my stuff. Like she wants to come to shows, but I was raised like I used to be really Christian, and she still is. So I feel bad because even though she's like, okay, you know, you've done drugs and stuff, and I've heard that, and I've heard you talk about sex. It's still like, if I casually mention, like, I've done coke in my life, it's not like just having her there is going to open a world in her head where she's like, oh my God, he's probably shot up heroin before. Like, it's just all the way down. So I'm
She's like, I went wrong somewhere.
but she wants
Matt.
to, she wants to come and she wants to be like a friend, but I'm
Yeah.
like, it doesn't work that way. Like, you can't.
My parents came to a couple of shows. They came to one in St. Clair Shores where one that Robert E. Johnson put on, and my mom and dad were like, my mom is very self-conscious, and she's like, can we stand in the back with you guys? Like, I don't want to sit up front like comedians. My mom's like, oh, they're gonna make fun of my mom. Thinks everyone's Don Rickles.
Yeah. A lot of people think that though.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, just sit up in front. Like, no one's gonna say anything to you. There was this older lady that
Paige Perry.
Yeah, doesn't do comedy very often, and
I don't think she does it anymore at all.
she was on the show. She fucking crowd worked my dad.
Oh boy.
but it was like written crowd work. Like it was written into the joke.
She was talking about banging black dudes because they have huge dicks,
Oh boy.
and then she just like basically worked my dad into the bit just to tell him that he was white and had a small dick. And I'm like, my dad is gonna fight this lady. If he does it, my mom will, because my mom will fight. But I don't think they were even paying enough attention to even give a fuck. Like, my dad was just like, yeah, okay. Like, he's just like, you know.
Oh boy.
I know one thing, it's not funny. That's what I...
My mom comes to a lot of our shows. Just always surprising to me. Like,
I always feel sorry for your mom when she comes to our shows, just because she has to watch me. Because your mom is so nice.
she is very
well,
nice.
she
Was she there Thursday?
Yeah,
Yes.
she was there.
At the table?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I was like,
You're like, oh, I hit on that lady.
Yeah, a lot.
I tried, like I did a new bit about child molesting, and she was As soon as I said it, I looked
And
down.
she
I
was
like,
into it.
Yeah. She could not contain herself as soon as I said those words.
Well, it also just makes me kind of feel bad for like your sister sitting with her too. So there's an element of like, how much do you laugh at pedophile jokes like with your mom? I did that by mistake. Like I remember when I was 17, I thought like I'll break the barrier, and my mom's like, let's go see a movie. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, what do you want to see? I was like, oh, 40-year-old virgin looks funny.
Oh boy.
And it was hilarious if she wasn't there, but she like the whole time is just like they just keep saying come like over and over and over again.
I remember Conan was on like network TV, the movie, and I was watching it with my parents, and back then I feel like they let a lot more go than they do now, like weirdly, because there's like a sex scene in the middle of Conan where he like has sex with like some barbarian chick, and I'm sitting there with my parents, and I like acted like I pulled the cover over my head, but like left a little crack so I could like see through. So I'm like
You
laying
still
there the
see
whole
Arnold Schwarzenegger's big fucking
his almost like, I mean, it was network TV, so like
So all dick.
yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, strangely enough, when we were kids, they let dick on TV a lot. I don't know.
Really?
No,
I don't.
just
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, well, maybe you, I mean, I say that
TV
because
shows
there
were
was
you
so much stuff as a child that went over my head completely that I missed. Like sometimes revisiting shows that I saw as a kid, I'll be like, they just openly used the word faggot or something, and I don't remember that. Like from when I was a little kid.
I watched. I'm like, me and when I have Ellie, we'll do this thing where like I'll find like she's interested in like movies I like thought were funny when I was a kid, and I'm like starting to run out. Like we've watched a lot of like old movies. Like she fucking loves Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Like,
oh, nice.
So we watch it like every Thanksgiving now. Like she fucking loves John Candy. She loves Steve Martin.
Nice.
I was
Good
like,
taste, Ellie.
Teen Wolf was on Hulu. I'm like, let's watch Teen Wolf.
Yeah. Totally.
So I'm like, yeah. And she's like, what's this about? I go, it's goofy. I go, this kid finds out he's a werewolf, you know, and his dad's a werewolf. And when he turns into a werewolf, he's super good at basketball and it's cool. And she's like, oh, that sounds funny. So he finds out he's a wolf. He comes out into the garage to tell his friend Styles. And he's like, Styles, I got something to tell you. And Styles turns around and goes, you're not a faggot, are you? And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And she looks at me like,
movie, isn't it?
And he goes, and then Michael J. Fox is like, no, I'm not a faggot. No. And he goes, oh, good. And then he tells him he's a werewolf, and he's like, oh, thank God.
Right.
Like, I'd rather be friends with a werewolf.
Like a fictional species is more preferable.
I feel like
A fictional species known for dismembering human beings.
At least you're not going to try to fuck me.
Yeah. You can fucking rip out my innards with your claws, but
Fictional being tied to astrology.
no homo. Yes.
So basically, the moral of Teen Wolf is that like black people are wolves, right? Like,
Yeah.
But those kinds
Except
of
the
movies,
moon's
like
always full.
I always missed that. Like I remember hearing the word faggot when I was a little kid and thinking like, what does that mean? And then having somebody say that's what Liberace is. Like that was the first homosexual that was identified to me as a child was Liberace. And I remember being like, I don't really understand. So to me, someone who was gay was a very flamboyant man who liked to be super fancy and wear like extravagant things that women mostly wore. Not a cross-dresser, I didn't think that, but I did think like, oh, like it's a man who wants to wear like necklaces and like fur coats and lounge around on pianos. That's what a gay person is.
so Bishop Don Juan.
My dad loved Liberace.
Wow,
And
I would not have guessed that.
My mom would tease him. She's like, you know he's gay, right? And he's like, no, he's not.
He's like, you shut your mouth.
He's like, no, he's not. He's like, my dad would not admit that Liberace was gay. Also, going back to Alex talking about all the dicks he saw in movies. I remember like being a kid and like the first time I saw like I would like pretend to hide my face if there was a nudie scene in a movie I was watching with my parents.
Scene.
But I remember the first time I saw like full frontal nudity and like you seen like the bush and everything, and I was like, oh my! I remember watching a movie with my friends, and I said out loud, I'm like, why don't they ever show dicks in movies? And everyone called me a faggot. But I was just genuinely curious, like, why is this so one-sided? Like, I didn't mean like I want to see dicks too.
Just an equality type of
Yeah, I'm like, why not? I'm like, this girl's got to do it. Why doesn't he have to pull his fucking?
Oh, I thought part of you was like,
Dollar out.
I wish I could show my dick on TV. This is
No, I don't want to show my dick to anybody.
Me either.
in like 8th, 9th, 10th grade on CBC, the Canadian channel, they would have movies late at night on Saturday.
Yeah.
And they'd be uncensored.
I remember that.
I used to stay up to watch those.
Dude,
all
I
the
caught
time.
one on a Sunday afternoon once.
Really?
And I was like, my parents were out doing yard work, and I was like, titties in a 3 o'clock on a Sunday? Like,
Yeah, there was
God
this one.
bless.
There was one movie that was on all the time.
fuck America. Canadians know what the fuck's going on.
There was
True.
one movie on all the time. It was called La Party, and
La
basically,
Party?
yeah, it was
French,
called.
it's French for the party.
Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it was called La Party, and it was basically set inside of a prison. And one night a year, they would throw like a cabaret for the prisoners, and there would be like musicians and strippers and all kinds of stuff. And one of the strippers went up and just full nudity, like they didn't censor anything. And she gets off stage and she goes into a bathroom, and an inmate sneaks into the bathroom with her and basically rapes her. They don't show the rape,
Basically.
but basically.
I mean, pretty much it was rape.
It was
Implied.
like right on the line of rape. But no, they don't like show the actual rape, but like they imply that that's what happens in the next scene when they cut away.
And she's crying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do they imply that?
Well, because like he's like
She's taking a shower
propositioning.
with her clothes on.
He's like,
That is a typical movie trope.
but yeah, there was that, and then there was another movie. I can't remember the name of that one, but it was like this old florist guy, and the opening scene is him in a hot tub talking on a phone. And then for no reason at the end of the scene, he just stands up and you just get full frontal on this old man.
That's what I picture the bathhouse when you say you go to. It's like an old guy that works at a florist in a hot tub and just stands up naked all the time.
I used to like try and find stuff on TV that was just like, it would say nudity, like HBO and stuff. And then,
Dude, I used to go through the fucking the TV guide that would come in the paper, and I would go through and look for
I did the same
nudity in adult situations, and I would fucking like make a mental note of when it was on, if my parents were going to be in bed or not.
Did you find
Mostly
the
I would-
sexuality?
I would-
like,
Yeah, you would plan like your whole weekend around this.
First, I would like look for like Anna Nicole Smith movies because she was my shit when I was a kid. Like I was like, there's this one called Skyscraper, and I'm just like, I
sounds
wanna
like a winner.
See if Skyscraper is on because she fucks a lot in that one.
Wow.
I ended up watching, because of that hunt that I was always on for doing that, I ended up watching at like 12 years old the entirety of Requiem for a Dream.
Oh my god.
Just trying to watch like boobs, and I was like, what the fuck?
And then
Why
the,
is this old
the
lady-
last scene scarred you sexually for the rest of your fucking.
the whole thing did.
You ever seen that movie, Laura?
I have not. In fact, it is on the list of movies that some of my friends have made for me called movies Laura is not allowed to watch.
That's a good call, because ass to ass shouldn't be shouted by so many old white men at once.
I don't even want to know
any
what
reason.
you're talking about or what that means because
It's very depressing.
yeah, it sounds awful. There's other movies on that list too, some of which the premise and of the movie is given away in the title of the movie, so I won't even say them out loud because I don't want to talk about them.
It's basically just like how drugs affect the lives of these several people, and you're like, it's got to turn out good for one of them, and
Nope.
that's all. Every fucking storyline ends. You're just like, seriously, fucking seriously. It's like, oh god.
There's there's
Yeah.
like a physical wrenching after that movie ends.
Yeah.
Like if you feel like, oh fuck.
I don't need to watch movies like that. I think I feel on a daily basis like so much like, oh my god, the world is such a horrible and scary and confusing and chaotic and meaningless place. Like I'm not like, give me a movie that shows me horrible sadness. Like I can turn on NPR for that.
Yeah, I was
sometimes
just
I'm in the
like-
mood for it, but most of the time I want it to be like an escape. Where that's what, like, people ask me like, how can you watch, like, that's what wrestling is for me too. Like people are like, how can you watch wrestling? I go, because it's something that reminds me of being a little kid, and I don't have to fucking think about it.
Yeah, and it's so like over the top that it's clearly like not like a normal person can realize. This
Like
is not
I know
real,
what's I know it's dumb.
Right.
Like I know, and that's why I like it.
Yeah, I was listening to what is it, Rob McElhaney from It's Always Sunny, Mac.
Oh, McHenry.
Yeah. Well, whatever. He was on a podcast and he was talking about it, and he was saying that he doesn't watch a lot of comedy because he writes comedy all day, and it's like, I just want a different thing. Like, I just want to move away from that world. So he says he watches a lot of like drama and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'll watch terrible movies to like sleep, like stuff that I look at and I'm like, this looks like it's gonna be a horrible like rom-com or something.
Yeah.
And I'll put it on, and then if it's if it's decent, like if it's okay, I'll just fall asleep. But if it's too bad, I end up staying up to the end and like hating it. Like just like, why the fuck did I do that? Like it happened to me the other night. It was like 2 hours in this movie. The whole time was like, I'm a writer, so I'm not gonna be writing one of these movies where it's cliche and then it's like the most cliche thing the whole way through, and it's like, because we addressed it, it's ironic. And you're like, oh god. So I watched the whole thing and then started like Hitch or something after.
Oh, that's better.
Oh yeah, no, that's Will Smith's charming.
Yes, that's true. He's charming. I don't really watch a lot of movies anymore. I used to watch more of them, but I don't really watch them anymore. But when I do, I like to watch like Bollywood movies. I literally want my movies to be so over the top that nothing about them is realistic at all. But I want them to be in a complicated foreign language, so I have to pay attention.
You would enjoy wrestling right now, I think, because there's
Because it's
in
Bollywood.
Hindi?
well, the world champion is Jinder Mahal, and he's Indian.
Oh,
So when he won the title, he had like this super like over the top Bollywood celebration, like Bali dancers and elephants and shit.
I would watch that.
But it was like the fucking dynamic of like watching wrestling fans watch this in the arena.
Oh my gosh, totally.
Like
That's
he had
great.
this old Indian lady come out to sing the India national anthem, and people just started booing her
That's horrifying.
because he's a bad guy because he's Indian.
Of course. Yeah.
Like, he doesn't really-
told her before that.
What's that?
Do you think they told her before she got out there? Like,
I'm sure they prepped her because he's supposed to be a heel.
Okay, I'd feel terrible.
But he
her.
doesn't really do anything bad. Like, I think he's just
earnest
people hate
old
him
woman
because
who
he's
loves her
Indian and he
country.
wears a turban. But yeah, people were like, but then there was like a couple people, which was funny because like there was a couple people because like the dancing thing was like fucking cool as fuck to watch, and there was a couple wrestling fans, like you could see him in the crowd shots, like reluctantly like clapping, like, well, that was pretty good. Like, I know they're Indian, but
That's great.
they're wearing like Stone Cold Steve Austin shirts. They're like, okay, they did a nice
Hear a
thing.
lot of. I'm not gay, but that was nice.
He's like, why don't they show more dicks in movies?
That was pretty good. No homo.
Right.
Man, my grandparents they didn't speak English, and
that was pretty good. No equality.
they didn't speak English, and I remember I lived with them for a while, like after my parents split up, and I would come home and they would be watching Bollywood movies, and I'd be like, why are you watching? And then it hit me, I'm like, well, I guess they don't understand anything else either, so like, why not just watch something cool? I don't know.
Brightly colored, fun songs.
Yeah, you know.
And that's the thing is like most of the times when people think of Bollywood movies, they do think of like dancing and the uplifting like song and dance scenes. But one of the things I love so much about them is those scenes always exist within a movie that also has at least one like crazy police chase and one like giant fight scene where like 20 people fight, or like a scene where like the hero will be like standing still as like a car is driving toward him, and he's just standing in the road like, you will never run me over, and then at the last minute the guy like hits a rock and his car flies in the air and the hero just reaches through the window and grabs him out and starts beating him up, like stuff like that. It's just so over the top and crazy, and so even when there's like violence or and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, this is all just so silly. And as much as Americans love to like make fun of Indian movies, like, oh, they're so cheesy and it's so, all this stuff is so ridiculous, I'm like, it's literally the same as American movies. Like
that's what
these
all of
movies
our
are just
movies
as
always
bad.
were. Like,
Hollywood
when I
is
watch
just
an
as much
old movie,
garbage.
I'm like, this is so cheesy. It's just
Most movies are garbage. I mean, most of them are. And some of the Bollywood movies I like, I would totally be like, this is totally just eye candy.
Yeah,
It's
'cause,
boring. It's not a good movie, but I also like, it's escapism. It's fun. And I like that.
Yeah, because like Barefoot in the Park is very realistic,
Right.
like,
Yeah. Totally.
a man
Barefoot
walking
in the
around in a park barefoot in sub-zero temperatures is going to survive an entire night. Yeah.
Totally. Without at least getting like gangrene on one toe.
Yeah.
I used to think movies were good, and then I had a friend who was so like smart about like he would just, I'd be like, this movie's good, and he'd watch it and then come in with like a 20-minute monologue of just like reasons it was terrible, why scene by scene it was bad, the actor, and like he'd break it down, and by the end I'd be like, holy fuck, this is awful.
he seems fun to hang out with.
Oh, he was hilarious though. It was like the funniest thing I'd ever hear. I'd be laughing so hard that I'd be like, oh, you're so right. So now I just like, there's like 6 movies that I look at and I'm like, that is a well-made, movie, like Green Room and shit like that. I'm like, that is a cool movie. Everything else is like, yeah,
Green Room's good.
I liked
What's
it.
that?
It's
Did you not watch it?
no, I think it looks dumb to me.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Well, because of what it is. It's like it's supposed to be this realistic, like in the confines of what it is. It's like really well executed as far as like what the struggle of the
Tell
show
Laura
is.
what it is.
It's about a band that's like going on tour and they end up getting the show canceled, so they get one set up in the middle of nowhere and they show up and it's like they realize that there's like Nazi punks and they're supposed to not play anything to make them mad. And then they do, and then some other shit happens. I don't want to give away too much because it gets really like intense, but
Spoiler alerts.
yeah, exactly. But it's a really good movie. I forget who made it. He's like some famous director who does cool shit, I guess. But I don't know. It was really good. It's like really dark.
Patrick
and-
Stewart in it.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't like it though
The guy
because it's
from Star Trek?
super fucking
Yeah.
violent. Like really,
I probably wouldn't then.
Yeah, it's really intense. But I enjoyed it.
Green Room. I was thinking The Green Mile, which is not the same.
Yeah,
That
like,
movie's
that's
sad
not about
as
a band.
fuck.
I don't think I haven't seen that movie.
I've never seen The Green Mile. Either.
I've seen
It was
it
the first
once.
time I cried during a movie. I was like 10. I was like, this is awful. Like this guy.
First time I cried was Good Will Hunting.
Oh yeah, I cried really hard during that movie.
Did
I
you?
will admit.
Yeah, I cried during Good Will Hunting.
think
What
my-
part
The
made
part
you
where he
cry?
was like, "It's not your fault," over and over again. That's
Oh,
what I said.
Yeah, that part made me cry, and then like I guess it would be a happy cry. At the time, I felt sad, like when Ben Affleck goes to his house at the end and he's not there. Like I know it was a good thing he left, but I also was like, oh man, they're not going to be best friends anymore.
Yeah.
So that made me cry too. Then I rewatched it. I used to love that movie. I rewatched it, and I was like, oh, this movie sucks. Like it doesn't hold up at all.
Yeah, I don't think I would want to ever revisit it.
But I don't know if it's because I'm so
Jaded.
dejected as a person now. Like, oh, this is dumb.
I mean, to be fair though, like I will cry at almost any movie, and I mean, I remember crying. I saw it in the theater, Babe, Pig in the City, which was the sequel to Babe, and there's a scene where basically like animal control busts into this house where all these dogs are and just starts fucking slamming dogs into cages
Yeah.
to throw them in the van to take them, and I lost it. I mean, I was crying so hard in the theater that I heard a little girl behind me say to her mom, "What's wrong with that lady? Is she okay?" And I was like, I shouldn't be here.
Don't you have a story about trying to learn horseback riding and you cried?
Oh, yeah. Thanks,
then-
Ray.
didn't a little-
Thanks for bringing that up.
And then a little girl say something to you?
Yeah. I was a grown adult woman in a horseback riding class with two children, both of whom were wearing their like rainbow colored bike helmets, for their helmet for riding horses. And I just couldn't. I mean, part of it was the woman was like, all right, so to get your horse to move, you need to take this riding crop and basically smack him. And I was just like, I can't do that. Like, I can't hit this horse. It just feels wrong. Like, I didn't know a lot about animals and training and stuff then, but just intuitively, I was just like, this makes me feel so uncomfortable. I can't hit this animal. And then these little kids were like, no problem. Like, come on, let's go. And they're like trotting around, and I like can hardly get my horse to move. And I was super frustrated, but also just like sad about trying to hit this horse. And I burst into tears. And both the little kids, you could tell, were like, ugh, this fucking lady's slowing down class again because she's crying. Like they were over it. Yeah, it was. I also had a horse step on my foot, and I was like, you know what? I don't like this. I should get divorced. This whole thing.
You know what? I don't think we're
Bad
supposed to be
idea.
riding horses. That's why we have cars now.
Yep, I totally agree with that.
It was a good temporary measure we had.
You guys know this isn't necessary anymore.
Horseback riding is a red flag, turns out.
It's an antiquated form of transportation.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. I just can't get into that. But you can train a horse without having to hit them, it turns out. So maybe if I had known about that, I might have been more keen on it. But I was like, this is not for me. Plus, horses, like, I could put my whole fist up a horse's nostril. Like, it's just too big. I don't want to be
Didn't know where you were going with that.
someplace innocent. I just feel like their faces are too big. Their whole body is too big. I don't want to be that close to that giant of an animal. I want him to be fine and live a nice life. But it's
I
too
love
much, too big.
watching videos of people doing things that animals are not supposed to be doing, and then the animal totally shuts that shit down.
Yeah.
But like talking about horses, there was like some kind of festival in Spain, and this guy's walking this horse across the street, and this dude's behind it just smacking it in the ass. Dude, this horse just 1 foot kicks this motherfucker in the chest, and he just disappears.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck yes, dude.
It's like your dad fighting teenagers in a park.
Yeah.
Yeah, any like elephant, anything in a circus that finally snaps, or like a tiger, it's like, yeah, you guys can't be surprised.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Remember that?
It just reminds me of that Chris Rock bit where everyone's like, oh my God, that tiger went crazy. He's like, no, the tiger went tiger. The crazy shit is what you're making it ride a bicycle. That's fucking crazy.
Have you seen the bears in hockey skates? It's one of the saddest cute things I've ever seen in my life.
I can't.
I thought it was fake, so I was like, this is adorable. And then as I was watching, I was like, holy fuck, I think this is a real bear on actual ice skates. And it got really depressing really quickly.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to do when I find like a stack of free tickets for the circus is to just pick them up while the people who work there are looking at me and then throw them all in the garbage. I also used to have stickers that said sold out on them. I literally bought these from PETA. And so if there was a poster for the circus, you would stick one of those stickers on it
Nice.
so that people wouldn't buy tickets.
I protested a circus once, and I emailed PETA, and they sent me a bunch of shit to go. I also I took Ellie to a circus because I also she's a little kid, and she's like, I want to go, but I told her exactly what it was and why I didn't want to go, and she's like, I still want to go, and she's like, and I never pulled any punches with her. I'm not like, oh, isn't that cool that tiger's doing that? She was like, how'd they get that tiger to do that? I go, they beat the fucking shit out of it every day.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't like this. I go, then we're not going to go anymore. And she's like, okay.
I went to a really sad little circus. I remember it was at the Knights of Columbus Hall near my house in Clarkston. All the kids in my subdivision, we walked over there with our family. It was this big deal. And then I remember being just feeling really sad watching it, just thinking this is really pathetic. None of these animals look healthy or happy. And then I grew up to be little animal rights activists.
Yeah, I went to one circus. Aside from the animals, it was just dumb. Why?
Yeah, it gets
this
so
isn't
boring.
fun. This is stupid.
After 10 minutes, you're like, all right, now what?
I could have also went to a zoo and just been on my own time
With less sad eyes.
How do you feel about Go ahead.
Well, I just remember going to one and being so bored that I left to go. I saw other kids playing, and I had a little plastic sword that you bought there, and I was went up to go play with them, but I was just socially awkward. I didn't know what to say, so I just sat next to them and looked and was like, how do I say hi and
fun.
play? Yeah, what do I just start playing with them? That seems aggressive. And then I just walked back to my friend's babysitter, and I was like,
yeah,
let's go.
They just blurted out, these animals are miserable.
Just bumming kids out at the circus.
Yeah.
You guys see that? The elephant's crying. I've never seen an elephant cry.
This is
They sell us toys, so we overlook the horrible conditions these animals are held
Yeah,
in.
they don't do the
right.
scars on the stuffed animals, but they should.
the clowns are just to distract.
This glow stick sheds light on exploitation.
I keep seeing videos on Facebook that make me want to stop eating meat again. There was this video of this Indian dude on a beach, and this fucking cow just walks up to him and just lays down and puts his head on him like a dog.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
It's so cute. And then you have to be like, well, I mean, my friend did that. He's vegetarian, and he was trying to give me shit because I had pepperoni or bacon on pizza one day, and I looked at him. I was like, yeah, I'm sure the cow really loves being hooked up to that fucking milker all day too. I'm sure it's got a really great existence on the field. He's like, all right, that's a fair point too. It's until you go full, I'm not going to eat anything, or I'm only going to get shit from people that are hunting or, actually good people, which is either you have to know someone who lives in the fucking woods, which is just a racist, or you have to, because that's how I have people up north that I could, but I'm not going to talk to them to get meat.
Yeah, totally.
There's a butcher by my house that all of their meat is just hunting meat.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
White Lake?
Yeah.
Expensive?
They hunt cows.
Yeah. They hunt cows with rocket
seems
launchers.
really easy. Look, they're not even moving. It's so easy.
Just hunting animals off other farms.
Yeah.
I've been a vegetarian since I was 18, I think. So I've been vegetarian longer than I haven't been, I think. I don't know. I'm not super good at math, but I think that's how that works. At least half of my life and pretty much my whole adult life. but I do not act like a sanctimonious prick about it.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like there's no way to turn people off quicker than to making them feel like being like judgmental about their choices.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just human nature. When you tell somebody, hey, that thing you're doing that you're okay with is actually not okay. Like, that nobody is like, oh, really? No one ever responds that way. They're just like, fuck you, now I'm defensive. So
Thanks for telling me. That's why everyone hates vegans.
right, I
Right.
know.
Like,
totally.
no one hates vegans for any other reason, and they won't shut the fuck up about it, and
Yeah.
they won't stop telling you the shit you're doing is not cool.
Yeah, it's the same reason people hate CrossFit people. I mean, it's just like, look, that's fine. That's just not the way I'm going to do it. But, you know, I also think that because vegans act, so many of them act like such sanctimonious, like judgmental assholes, that it turns people off to the whole idea. When in fact, instead of me like being like, oh, you're horrible because you eat meat. Like if I wasn't a complete asshole, maybe I could eventually influence you as my friend and somebody that I care about to eat less meat. But that would take like, you know, more work and me being compassionate. Like when I could get that immediate high
I can make
of making you
myself
feel like shit
better.
because I'm a better person.
Right.
That's so
I can either make myself feel better months from now when I finally convince you to be vegan, or I can just feel better right now by calling you an asshole.
that's right. Exactly. So
And that's how I feel about like religion too, is like,
oh gosh, totally same.
it's like I don't hate people because of their religion.
I do.
It's because they won't fucking shut up about it. To me, and it might not be for everybody, an atheist that won't stop
Just as bad.
telling you about there is no God is just as annoying as a fucking
yeah.
Christian.
Yeah.
The problem is not God or no God. It's I don't want to hear your bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, just quit bothering me.
I almost made an old lady cry at my door once.
Fuck
like,
yeah.
These Christians were canvassing the fucking neighborhood trying to convert people to Christianity, and they like came to my door, and this like really old lady was with like another kind of old lady. And she just starts talking to me about Jesus, and I just kind of cut her off, and I was like, listen, I don't want to waste either one of our times. I don't really believe in any of this. And she didn't know how to react to that, and she just started like, and like stammering, and I was like, oh.
You know what's funny is like a lot of like when like any step towards like equality is made, like gay marriage being legalized, a lot of the things you hear them say is, well, now they're going to start recruiting people to be gay. Like, motherfuckers, that's what you do all fucking day.
Yeah.
Exactly, right.
I think the same with like politics though, because people post stuff where I agree with the idea, but they're such douchey people. I'm like, I hate you. I want to agree with other people just to not be on your team. Like, I don't want to be associated with you.
Religion's a super fun one. I like that a lot. That's always good.
Always good to bring up with the family, especially.
I remember as a child going to church and just being so bored and not at all connecting to any of it, and just being like, there was never a point in my life where I was like, oh, this is speaking to me. Like, never ever. And also I remember my sister and I making our Sunday school teacher cry. But the thing is, it wasn't like she just burst into tears in the middle of Sunday school. She literally brought us like separate from, she's like, can I talk to you girls before Sunday school starts? And she brought us into like a different room, and then was like, I don't think you know how hard it is trying to teach a Sunday school class, and every Sunday the two of you cause so much trouble. And I just remember being like, holy shit, we just were obnoxious. Like, we were just young, obnoxious kids. We have, both of us, I'm sure, have ADD. I know I do. And I was just like, I can't concentrate on this shit. And also, like, everything you're saying is boring, so I just want to go play with the toys. Like, I just remember feeling like, wow, this is a big deal to her, and we're fucking it up.
Twin Lauren, little Lauren Deanne, just wrecking a Sunday school teacher's life.
We probably looked at each other and were like, well, I guess we're going to hell for this. High five. I don't even.
And he just came with devil horns on the next time.
Yeah, I felt like church was the worst because it also was like
guys
the
are
one day before school starts again, which I also hated. So I was like, on Sunday, like the day when I'm dreading going back to school, I also have to go to this horrible drudgery of church, and just
You guys were like this. You guys were this teacher's like twin girls from The Shining.
Yeah.
They also couldn't come up with a more unappealing name, like Sunday school.
Yeah, I
Who
know.
the fuck wants to go to school on Sunday?
No, exactly.
They need to.
Have like
They
a-
definitely need a rebranding.
Like a tit for tat thing with my family, like my sister now, because she'll like bring up like Planned Parent. Like I said, I was doing a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood.
Is your whole family still religious?
Like immediate, my 2 sisters and my mom are still. My dad's like got part of it, but it just ties into his conspiracy shit. So he's kind of off in his own thing.
Yeah.
So it makes it easy. Like we can kind of, and then my brother is just, he doesn't really give a fuck. He just likes to fuck with people. So like anytime my sister comes at me, I go harder back in the opposite way, so she's cut down because like she interrupted me and my friend hanging out and just said like, and Jesus loves you, and I was like, what? Why would you? What are you doing? What are you doing? She's like, what? I'm just saying. And I was like, that's pretty weird.
Shut up, you stupid bitch.
No, I just start going like, that's weird. He doesn't even know us. And she's like, no, but I mean, he loves all his children. And I was like, we're his children? She's like, yeah. I was like, oh, Dan, Jesus slept with your mom? And just the look on her face was like, okay, all right, guys. And then she left. I was like, all right, I'm going to do that every time now.
I see what you're doing, Matt.
Well, yeah, and it's like, you can only take that for so many years.
Jesus is not happy with it.
This is just, I want to be friends with you still. I want to talk to my sister so she shuts the fuck up about it.
Jesus fucked your mom, dude.
I think for me,
This is so awesome.
What bothers me the most about, I think, a lot of this sanctimonious bullshit is all of it is just bullshit. Like, I don't give a shit what you believe. I don't give a shit what you feel. I don't give a shit what you say. What do you do? Like, what are your actions? Like, what are the things that you're doing that, like, bring into action these beliefs, these thoughts that you have, like these things that are important to you? Like, if you sit around all day talking about Jesus and talking about, being a Christian, and yet you don't do anything Christian like you don't feed homeless people, you don't struggle to love and support people that are different from you, because you know what, that might be a struggle, but that's what you're supposed to fucking do as a Christian. You're supposed to take in immigrants, you're supposed to care about people who are different from you, and so all of this stuff, I'm just like, the things that you're doing do not line up with your supposed beliefs at all. So to me, like, I don't have to listen to anything you say. Like, all of this falls completely like on deaf ears. It's just ridiculous.
Well, that's exactly why I think a lot of these like right-wing groups are winning, because they understand you don't attack like the big idea, you attack like the things affected by the idea, and that's how you like sway people. You don't attack abortion. You just say like, these kids don't have any freedom because they don't have a choice in this. So that's what they attack, instead of just being like, oh, abortion is bad. They're just like, well, these kids, they don't have a choice. And that's where they get people.
I had to get my daughter to not there was a abortion protesters in Royal Oak, and they had one of those giant mangled fetus. It was fucking
they had those
8 feet by fucking 8 feet. And he's just on the corner right by the fucking zoo in the
I saw
summer.
that guy. Yeah.
And so I'm driving by, and I'm like, I was like, don't look over there. And she's like, what? And I just drove away. And she's like, what was I was like, it's just an anti-abortion protester. And he's just out there with shit that you shouldn't see. It's fucking ridiculous. I actually, when I was in high school, I was Christian, and I went to a youth group with my friends, and I wasn't raised that way. I didn't have any fucking friends, and these people I became friends with, they like punk and they like skateboarding, but they're also one of my friend's parents were super religious, and he's like, I go to this youth group too, but the youth pastor is really cool, and he's a skater too, and he was really cool. He's really one of the only people I've ever met in religion where you're like, this is what they're supposed to be like.
Yeah.
He was fucking an awesome dude, did crazy, would go to Africa and build houses and shit.
That's dope.
He was very an awesome person, and also our youth pastor or whatever. But I remember we had other friends that went to the youth group with us, and they got anti-abortion propaganda fetus and put them up in our fucking school.
Wow. Cool.
They
That's
made a
pretty cool.
big sticker and a huge sticker of a fucking fetus and just put it up on the wall.
They're the ones that go to Africa and build a house, and they're like, okay, now if you want Jesus to protect this home and not tear it down, you have to hate the gays.
Yeah.
Yep.
I listened to someone tell a story. It was someone telling a story about someone else who I guess went and built did a well and everything in Africa and everything, and did all this great shit. And then they said the follow up to that was that the village next door killed them all to have their well.
boy.
So he's like, at a certain point, you're just like, well, this is fucking pointless. Like, this is just, you just created a mini genocide by trying to give someone water.
Yeah.
Oh, good
Well,
times.
we are,
Altruism gone wrong.
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
We are at an hour. Do we want to wrap this up? Or?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right.
To all of our Christian listeners, I'm not sorry.
We just lost our entire fan base on this episode.
That's okay. We'll regain it with the next one.
I like our second episode of the Glory Friends is all pretty much anti-Christian propaganda.
We had we used to sell we used to have wooden nickels at church, and you'd collect for good things you do. Yeah, it was terrible. You'd get wooden nickels as rewards for shit you do, and you'd be able to buy little Jesus propaganda from our store.
Wow.
And our church, there was 4 people in our youth group. It was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we collect them, and then I remember it's so upsetting that I didn't do hard drugs at the time, because they sold little Coke mirrors that said Holy Spirit on the
That's
sleeve, and you pull it
fantastic.
out, and it was a little tiny mirror that was literally just a line's length.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and I remember buying them. I was like, this is sweet. Now I have a tiny mirror, and I had no idea why that. And then
Lines
years
on the
later,
go.
you're like, oh, people do drugs. Why would they sell these as a Christian?
That's
They're
fantastic.
trying to guilt you into stopping by putting the Holy Spirit on your Coke mirror.
Yep.
Well, on that note, we will see you guys next time. Have a great whatever amount of time it takes for the next episode to come out.